Welcome in the latest episode of the Ben and Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, real_G Warner. It's a nice episode. We're going through the final day, at least of this weekend. May 16th is when we're recording for May 17th. Going through England, Spain, Italy, and France. Going through the tables, telling you what everyone has to play for, what they don't, as we are finishing the league calendar in France. We have more match days. We have 2 left in England, Italy, and Spain, and we'll cover all, trying to find a best bet from each of the leagues, then ultimately find an ultimate best bet end of show, which is how you grade us on how we do. If you'd like to follow the podcast, please do Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. You can find us on the Betting the Pitch Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, as I just said. Also, YouTube at @the_real_G Warner. And on Instagram, if you want the reels, at @the_real_G Warner. If you want the shorts, youtube.com/the_real_G Warner. And that's about all we're going to, I guess, publicize on this show. So as I have everything ready in the background, let's get to it. Sorry, I was loading one of the league tables that didn't actually stick. So let's start with the English Premier League, and we'll start with they've got a kind of a weird schedule. They did play a Friday matchup with Aston Villa and Chelsea. Well, here we are starting on Sunday morning, 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern Time, with Manchester United hosting Nottingham Forest. Currently, Manchester United, a 1-goal favorite. All the juice right now is on Nottingham Forest. That push on a single goal loss, very, very important. Total in this one is 3, juiced very heavily to under. If you're looking for some juice savings, yes, there's 2 match days left in England, but maybe for the future as well. You probably could see it in the World Cup. Check out betonline.ag or sportsbetting.ag, sister sites. And if you need a referral, let me know. But we'll go to Manchester United. They're currently sitting in 3rd position on 65 points. They are 10 points ahead of Bournemouth on 36, and they are 3 points ahead of Aston Villa, 6 points ahead of Liverpool. Look pretty good to finish in 3rd position, or at least finish in the Champions League slot, which generally makes me think that they don't have a lot to play for. Nottingham Forest, though, they are on the other side of things. They are on 43 points in 16th position, 2 matches left to go. They're 5 points ahead of Spurs. They are 7 points ahead of West Ham, so they are in pretty good position to potentially get through and save themselves for another season in the English Premier League. As a 1-goal underdog with still a need to perform against a team that doesn't really have to, and I honestly believe that Manchester United have been one of the most overrated teams in football across, Europe for 10 years, and especially the last 3, all the time under Ruben Amorim. They've certainly improved with Michael Carrick taking over, but I'm not really a believer in that. I think we see Nottingham Forest play a low-scoring game here. Manchester United have not been playing that way, but I like to push on 3. It's available right now. I also like the full goal underdog, so +1 Nottingham Forest in that matchup. Well, next go to Wolves and Fulham. Currently, Wolves a half of a goal underdog. Juice is split both ways, -108. That's where the 16 cents come in. Juice is extremely expensive to under 3 right now, so imagine that there are some 2 3/4 out there. So I'll put that down as the actual number. Wolves, long time since relegated on 18 points, far, far, far away from everyone else. Fulham in 11th place on 48 points. Could catch Brentford maybe to get to Europe in a Europa Conference League place, which seems to be valuable for English clubs because they have so much more money than everyone else in that competition because they're playing in, Cyprus, it feels like, on Thursdays. But and that's the big question, is how much do these teams care about it? I think Wolves probably don't. They want to put a good showing in front of their home crowd, but Fulham has something to play for here. So I don't know if there's much for me in that matchup whatsoever. Move now to the next matchup. It's Everton hosting Sunderland. Currently, Sunderland a half a goal underdog. All the juice is on Everton. Maybe we see this climb to 3/4 of a goal before kickoff. Total this one's 2.5. Juice very heavily to over. And it's certainly got me interested because neither of these teams I expect to score much in any sort of competition. Currently, Everton in 10th position on 49 points. They are 2 points behind Brentford, 4 points behind Brighton in 7th. So they've certainly can see themselves with a couple matches left, a couple wins, looking really good for the future. Well, Sunderland, they're only 1 point behind them, so you could argue the same thing. It's been a great year for Sunderland. No one expected them to be as high on the table as they are. Everyone that comes up from the championship usually fights relegation. They've been great all season. I'm very interested in the road underdog and also the under. Probably play both. If it gets to 3/4 of a goal, if Everton win 1-0, you lose half your bet on the side and win your full bet on the total. So like that a lot. And I think we might even see 2 3/4 before kickoff, which should offer you some potential savings also if it landed on 3. Next, we'll go to Brentford and Crystal Palace. Currently, Brentford a half a goal favorite with $1,000,000 of juice. So let's make that 0.75. these numbers will be corrected for kickoff, or at least as we get closer to kickoff tomorrow. Total is 3, just minus 130 to under, plus 114 on over. So you could argue that's a 2.75 as well. But I guess we're just going to stick here with numbers where they're at. In terms of what these teams have to play for, Brentford in that 8th position, as I already said, fighting for Europe, should be huge for that club. They haven't been there. Crystal Palace, meanwhile, in 15th on 44 points. Can't be caught to be relegated, so they have nothing to play for, and that's a scary team I don't want much to do with. Brentford looked like a deserved favorite, and I don't think I want to mess with the underdog in that matchup whatsoever. Let's now move to Leeds hosting Brighton. Currently Leeds a half a goal underdog with all the juice, 23 cents, minus 123 to plus 107 coming back on Brighton. Total this one is also 3 minus 130, so that's pretty expensive. Could argue there's some 2 3/4 out there. And what do we have to play for here? Leeds, newly promoted side that have been up and down, yo-yo club from the Championship to the Premier League. Well, they're safe for another season. That's huge for them. Brighton are in 7th position looking for Europa League, or to keep their Europa League place. Doesn't look like they can get to Champions League, excuse me, but maybe they could with 2 wins and some help around them. So there's a lot for Brighton to play for. Leeds don't have much, and I know that Leeds will have a great crowd, but the question is how much do they care? And even if you have a good starting lineup of great players and your starters, I don't know that we can really guarantee what's going through the Leeds minds at this point. I mean, they switched to back 3 like halfway through the season. It worked out really well for them. They started scoring points and really, I think, just not conceding. The defense was always good, but I don't know why a defensive change made their offense better, but it somehow worked that way. I don't know. I'm not sure there's a lot for me in that one. Newcastle then host West Ham United. Currently, West Ham, they are half a goal underdogs with all the juice on their side, minus 139 to plus 123 on Newcastle. That tells me that there's likely a quarter goal underdog out there on West Ham, and it makes sense because they have something to play for. Total is 3, just all the way to over. To me, I would wait till that hits 3 1/4, but to me, ultimately, 3 is a key number in soccer betting. Newcastle currently sitting in 13th position on 46 points, can't be relegated. West Ham United on 36, 2 points behind Spurs in the final relegation position. Burnley and Wolves far, far away, but that's a really great position, I think, for a motivation advantage for West Ham. Probably makes sense why they're only a quarter goal underdog. Yes, they are one of the worst teams in the Premier League, have been many of the recent years, besides a good run that saw them, I think, win a Europa League or a Europa Conference League final. David Moyes, hell yeah. But then got sacked the next season, LOL. For me, West Ham United getting a quarter of a goal looks very interesting. I lean that way in that matchup. We got one more matchup on Monday with Arsenal in first position on 79 points. They are 2 points ahead of Manchester City. They got a lot to play for, clearly. Burnley, 19th out of 20 on 21 points this entire season. You could argue they're playing for pride if they even have any, and that's a big, big question. They're 2.5 goal underdogs with all the juice on Arsenal. So 2 3/4 looks like a number that's probably out there across the marketplace. Total this one is 3.5, just very all the way to over. So maybe climbing to 3 3/4. I don't think that juice is as extreme though at this moment. I'll lean to Burnley, I guess. Probably lean to under more than anything. Have some pride, Burnley. We'll see if Up the Clarets actually stick around for 2 more matches left this season, or if they're completely out to sea already. As for the ultimate best bet selection, make a nomination from each of the leagues we're covering on this podcast, the 4 leagues, because Germany finished today. Let's go with West Ham United, a 1 quarter goal. So quarter, 1/4, quarter goal underdog on the road at Newcastle. Now let's go to Spanish La Liga. And we'll start it looks like all these matches are at noon Central Time, 1 Eastern Time, which is a little bit better. Thank you for not making it 7 a.m., the early slate, but it's probably better for attendees and crowds and all those sort of things. Anyway, Elche, a half a goal favorite at home to Getafe, very juiced to the Getafe side. So it looks like more like Elche or a quarter goal favorite. Total in this one is 2, juiced very heavily to under, 18 to 20 cents there. But every Getafe match I like under because they defend better than everyone, or that's their main reason for being in La Liga, in the Primera División in Spain. But also, they don't really score much, and they're somehow been so high in the table, currently sitting 7th on 48 points, 2 points behind Celta, 3 points ahead of Real Sociedad. who are already locked in Europa League place. Getafe are really just trying to hold off Athletic Club, and they are 4 points behind with only 2 matches left to play. So Getafe are in great position. They certainly have something to play for. Elche, meanwhile, are tied for the last relegation position. Levante with a win midweek put them, they're in 19th out of 20. Real Oviedo already down, but Levante are in great position. Elche are tied with them, both newly promoted. They are very concerned, and I don't really love Getafe coming in to frustrate the heck out of you. And potentially, red card risk is always high with Getafe in any sort of matchup. With Elche, I worry that they've been really bad away from home all season, but the home matches is where most teams that stay up get their points. I think I just don't know that I trust Elche's offense. It really dried. I think maybe ran out of gas. They sold some players midseason. That's never good. But we're in great position to stay up for a very long time, and now looking in grave danger of tied for the last relegation position with, I guess, a better goal differential. And I know that La Liga goes off of head-to-head, so we'll see when that kicks in. Hopefully some random match days out of 38 worked out in their direction. But I don't love them as a favorite here. So I'll lean to Getafe, quarter goal underdog on the road. I'll also lean to the under 2, as I do in every Getafe match. And I got to say, it's probably one we want to grab sooner rather than later, because I don't see anyone betting overs with Getafe involved. Next, go to Oviedo. They are hosting Deportivo Alaves, which is great for Alaves and really bad for Oviedo, ultimately. Oviedo are relegated. Probably will be putting forth the best effort you'll see in these last 2 matches because they're at home for this one. Alaves with a huge result to get up to 40 points this midweek. They are in 16th right now, 1 point ahead of 17th, 18th, and 19th, and tied with 15th on Girona. This is so tight at the bottom of La Liga, and I got to say, I'm pumped for it. It's going to be awesome watching all this weekend. But Alaves, they're currently a half a goal underdog right now on the road. Excuse me, half a goal favorite on the road to Real Oviedo. So not a lot of belief in the marketplace right now in Spain that Real Oviedo are going to do anything to play this matchup. Maybe it could be because of the result midweek. But total in this one is 2.5, just very heavily to over. And big question is, can we trust Alaves as a road favorite to go do anything? Oviedo have been awesome. They probably want to take Deportivo Alaves down with them. I mean, they're all up in the northwestern part of Spain, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that there's big rivalry or hatred between these clubs at all. Oviedo have been so far off the beaten path for so long, literally getting GoFundMes just to keep the doors open at the club, which is awesome that they made it all the way back to La Liga, but they've been pretty bad all season, and I think ended up winning the playoff to get in. So that's usually not a good indicator. But Alaves are... I'm concerned as them as a road favorite, I got to say, and I'll lean to under 2.5 as well in that matchup. Next, go to Rayo Vallecano hosting Villarreal. Currently, Rayo on 44 points in 10th position, 5 points ahead of the highest relegation position, so they're not even safe. They could catch Getafe with 2 wins. It's gonna be hard though, because Getafe if they win any of their matches, they'll be ahead. And Rayo are ultimately focused on European competitions as well. Well, Rayo, big favorite right now at Pick'em, minus 145. So let's call it minus 1 quarter goal favorites at home to Villarreal. Total in this one is 2.5, just very heavily to over. So let's call that 2 3/4. A little more reasonable juice potentially. And the big question is, what does Villarreal play for? They're currently on 69 points in 3rd position. They are 11 points back of Real Madrid, 3 points ahead of Atletico Madrid. And I don't know if it really matters. They could get caught, I guess, by Atleti, but it doesn't matter. They're in Champions League. So that's probably why this number is where it is. I much prefer Rayo at Pick'em than I would at quarter goal favorite. So let's see if that comes back to more reasonable juice. I doubt it, even if Villarreal is playing their best players. I'm just not really sure what we'll see there. Total, I like under 2 3/4. That is basically how I feel about every Rayo Vallecano match. Even with a Villarreal side that's not playing their best players or maybe less motivated, I just don't see a lot of goals in that matchup at all, like 2 3/4. And I feel like it's bigger than we made it just because of the situation in Villarreal, who want to score goals, but have really been the counter-attacking team all season. Let's see how disciplined they are in a game that doesn't matter to them. We'll move next to Real Sociedad hosting Valencia. Currently, Real Sociedad a half a goal favorite right now. All the juice on Valencia, so let's call that quarter goals. Total in this one is 2.5. Choose very heavily to over, but it's reasonably priced over at the moment. So I'll put my interest in Valencia and Real Sociedad, at least according to this. Valencia on 43 points, Sociedad on 45. But Sociedad already have locked up Europa League berth by winning the Copa del Rey. Valencia only 4 points ahead of relegation. I mean, they're locked in for this matchup. And Sociedad are 6 points ahead, probably are safe, but there's until you're mathematically guaranteed a return to the next season, I think there's something that needs to be said. So should be a matchup that's very interesting to both. I would give the motivation edge to Valencia. So I'll lean that way on the side. Total is a little bit more difficult. Would be more interested at least if it climbed to 2 3/4, which it probably may. But Real Sociedad have not really been under team ever since Pellegrino Matarazzo took over. So for me, I think it might just be Valencia as a side there that I'm most interested in. Now we got a big one at the bottom, Levante and Mallorca. Levante, a half a goal favorite at home, all the juice, and then some on Mallorca. So let's call that quarter of a goal on Mallorca. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced pretty heavily to over 18 to 20 cents, but reasonably priced there. Levante have been really good climbing up the table, still in 19th, but on the same amount of points as Mallorca. Both these teams in the relegation zone. Draws probably did not help them here, but for all these other teams that are around them, any sort of point result will do. I would expect Mallorca to be more okay with a result, a draw away from home. Of course, a win would be enormous for them, but they're used to really struggling away from home. So Levante on their side have not. I mean, they've been a yo-yo club going up. I actually saw them in Spain concede 5 goals to Sevilla back when Sevilla knew how to score goals many years ago, it seems like now. But yeah, the Mallorca side, I mean, they're in danger, but they do have a usually intelligent setup to defend based on their budget and then put La Pirata up front and without Marici to just put his head on something and score and then try to kill the game. I love that for road underdogs and for unders. So probably strongest interest is 2.5, under 2.5 there. Levante want to score goals, but I don't know that they will. And there's a lot of nerves in this matchup, being that both these teams are going down if the season ended today. Atletico Madrid then hosts Girona in another big battle of one team that really has something to play and the other that doesn't. Girona on 40 points, 1 point ahead of relegation. Atletico Madrid on 66, can't be caught for Champions League place, can't catch Villarreal. I guess it can pass them for third. Maybe there's some more money there. I don't think that really motivates players at this point because they're getting paid what they get paid. Maybe there's some extra bonus money or something like that, but I don't think it really matters. They're focused on the World Cup this summer since nothing is in danger. Total this one's 2.5, juiced very heavily to over. Might be seeing a 2 3/4 coming soon. For a side, though, we have Atleti, half a goal favorite with all the juice. Would love to see this climb to 3/4 of a goal. I've really liked what I've seen from Girona after starting the season. The worst position you possibly could. You could argue that going to Atletico Madrid is going to be difficult, but Atleti are great at home compared to where they play on the road because they're usually so bad on the road, at least versus expectations. But Atleti have been dogging themselves in La Liga for a very long time, rotating, seeming really not interested, tough endings to their seasons in both the Copa del Rey and shootout loss and also in Champions League. But that's what happens, and they're a great team to bet against at this point. So give me Girona getting half of a goal, soon to be 3/4, hopefully, before kickoff. Well, next to Sevilla, a half a goal underdog at home to Real Madrid. All the juice is on Sevilla, so you could argue this should be a quarter of a goal. Minus 140 I'm seeing currently. Total is 2.5, juiced minus 134 to over, so you could argue that's 2 3/4 somewhere as well. I don't know that I want to fade Real Madrid because they are one of those clubs that still win matches, even though their crowd is whistling at them the whole time. But there won't be a crowd because they're going to be plenty of not Verde Blancos. That's Betis, but there's going to be plenty of Real Madrid fans, most likely in Sevilla because they always are. But I don't know, maybe they're whistling, and maybe that helps Sevilla even more, whose crowd will also be whistling, but usually at the board. So, I mean, there's a cacophony of whistles likely going down if you're sensitive to hearing and you don't want to go deaf like I almost did at Real Sociedad a few seasons ago. Keep that in mind. But I think Sevilla are worth a look. They're in much better position on 43 points than they had been a lot of years, sitting in 12th position. Real Madrid didn't win La Liga, but so what? Who cares? They're not over it, but at this point, so what? Who cares? It's probably how Real Madrid. I mean, they want to finish the season well. Arbeloa is coaching for his job. I don't know if he'll get it, but caretaker manager midseason, things weren't going well coming in. Hard to argue that was his fault. With all that said, I'll lean to Sevilla getting a quarter of a goal at home from Real Madrid. Next, we got Athletic Club Bilbao hosting Celta de Vigo. Currently a half a goal favorite are Athletic Club, though it's very expensive on Celta, so I'll call them a quarter goal underdog. Total in this one is 2.5, juiced very heavily to under. Call that 2.25. And that reflects Celta Vigo's defense away from home. And you could argue probably Athletic Club just really struggling all season, unable to balance Champions League or demands of their players or injuries or all that mixed into one. And all snowballed pretty fast. Athletic Club on 44 points in ninth position, are trying to catch Getafe, have to win out in order to get there, or win in a draw and then somehow survive a tiebreaker, I think. From a Celta side, they are on 50 points in sixth position. Can't catch Real Betis. Unlikely to be, I guess, could be caught by Getafe for a Europa League spot. So they got a lot to play for. Athletic Club, you could argue they do, but they've just been worse this season, as you can tell by the table. As you can, I mean, certainly versus expectation, Athletic Club were supposed to be good. I thought they would finish top four. They clearly did not. But give me Celta and under. I think that is a good way to fade the San Mamés crowd, which is just going to be disappointed the whole time. Last matchup in this 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time window, and then got a big matchup coming after that. That probably doesn't mean anything for anybody, but big names at least. Espanyol, a half a goal underdog with a ton of juice right now on the road at Osasuna. I'll call them a quarter goal. Total in this one is 2, and it's used very heavily to over. Probably seen a 2.25 pop at some point. But let's get into why this game matters. So Osasuna currently on 42 points in 13th position. They're only 3 points ahead of that 19th position, so they're very close to getting relegated. Espanyol on 42 points as well. So they're both on the same. So this is going to be a big match that both should care about. I think both are very happy to take a point that would keep them at least ahead of anyone that could potentially catch them from the relegation positions. But honestly, a win's essential here for them to really declare safety. Quarter goal underdog for an Espanyol team that have been so bad for all of 2026, really, after a great start to the season. And they usually have had a lot more weaknesses exploited, or they've been weaker away from home. They've been great in Catalonia. And that's what kept them up last season after they newly promoted back to the Primera División in Spain. But it's hard to back them as only a quarter goal underdog, especially in a tough place to play like El Sadar. Total is 2, very low. Might see a 2.25. I'll wait to see if that ends up popping. Lean that way, but it's very low as well. And I think that reflects the needs for both these teams in this matchup. Last one that we'll get to in Spain before we get to an ultimate best bet nominee. We have Barcelona 1.5 goal favorites at home through Real Betis, minus 114 of the 20 cents juiced. Total is 3.5, juiced very heavily to over. Currently, Real Betis are in 5th position, can't be caught by anybody. Barcelona can't be caught at the top. So who cares about this matchup? It's probably a training session, probably see a lot of goals. So I wouldn't advise any sort of touching of under here. I guess I'll lean Real Betis getting 1.5 goals because I think they will see a matchup with Barcelona being maybe more interesting than Barcelona, who's already won and been partying. And maybe that's the big difference here. For an ultimate best bet nominee from La Liga, I'll go top to front to back just to try to get everyone, I guess, caught up, because there's a lot of matches starting with, I think, 9 of the 10 starting all at noon Central Time. Elche Getafe should be a low scoring game, so under 2 looks very interesting there. Real Oviedo and Alaves. Does Oviedo care? That's the big question. If they do, half a goal underdog looks great, and under 2.5 looks interesting as well. Rayo Vallecano and Villarreal. You can argue Rayo will care. If they get down to a pick 'em that's a little bit more juice friendly, I don't know if it will, but that's probably my lean in that one. Valencia, I like on the road at Real Sociedad. I have nothing to really play for. Levante and Mallorca is a great matchup at the bottom that should be incredibly tense. I'm going to pick that for under 2.5. So my best bet on this La Liga Spain portion of the show, but also lean to Girona, like Sevilla, like Celta and under, like Espanyol and under, but more under probably there. And that does it for this Spanish portion of the show. Again, I'll say it: Levante, Mallorca under 2.5, and it might get to 2.75 before kickoff on Sunday. We'll now go to Serie A in Italy as I try to make sure I click the right league. And we got some early ones. 5 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. Ay. Oh, boy. But with that said, that's what we're here for. And that's where we're going to find some winners. We'll start with Lazio visiting Roma in the Stadio Olimpico, where they played the Coppa Italia midweek while Roma sat and rested. That's not a great situation, especially because Roma are the bigger club. You could argue the bigger one in the city, more fans, at least when I went, a lot more money. And those are all bad things for Lazio, who are doing their best to try to, I guess, get through 2 matches in a week that are big for them. This is usually a low-scoring contest, and so that for that reason, under 2.5 looks interesting to me. 5 a.m. start, probably not great for scoring goals either. Roma sitting in 5th position on 67 points. They're tied with Milan for the last Champions League spot. This game matters a lot to them. Lazio on 51, can't catch Atalanta, so they really are out of everything. You could argue this game doesn't matter to Lazio. I think it will, though. I'll lean to under 2.5 more than the side because Roma's defense has been great this year. They've not scored any goals despite a very offensive manager. Go figure, but I guess that's where we're at. We'll next move to Fiorentina, a 1.5 goal underdog, and they're on the road at Juventus. Total in this one is 3, and it's juiced very heavily to under. Just moved up from 2 3/4 when I checked a little bit earlier. Juve are in 3rd position on 68 points, could catch Napoli for 2nd, but they're only 1 point ahead of Roma, so this game matters a lot to them. Fiorentina have climbed outside of the relegation position, are now safe on 38 points, and it's taken a long time for them to get there. It was looking really grim. I think we all knew that they'd get out of it, but you never guarantee it when they're bottom of the table and firing Stefano Pioli. But since the worst team has nothing to play for and they're on the road, I'll skip. Move next to Genoa, and they're hosting AC Milan. Currently, Genoa, a 3/4 goal underdog, a little bit of money coming in on Milan recently. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily under 20 or 18 of the 20 cents. Currently, Genoa are in 14th position on 41 points, cannot be caught. They're safe. Milan on 67, tied with Roma, 1 point behind Juventus, 3 behind Napoli. There's a lot to play for at the top of the table, and that's, I guess, what we're mostly talking about here. I guess under 2.5 is my biggest interest. I'm not sure there's enough there for me, though, because Genoa are likely on the beach and thinking about whatever World Cup. I just don't know. I guess Vasquez is probably playing for Mexico. I don't know. They've got a lot of other players. Ostergaard potentially for Denmark. No, they didn't make it. Anyway, we'll move on to the next matchup, and that's Como, 1 3/4 goal favorites to Parma, -121. Total is 2 3/4. She's very heavily to over. So this is still at 5 a.m. Parma are in 13th position on 42 points. They are safe. Como are 2 points behind Roma and Milan, 3 points behind Juve. So they're fighting for Champions League. They're not going to be caught by Atalanta for their Europe position. So good for them. What a run. And we'll see if Cesc Fabregas leaves for Chelsea. With all that said, you'd think that he's going to be going for it and playing as much as he can. Parma with nothing to play for. I mean, the number is gigantic, but it probably should be. It's no really, even with big names in the starting lineup, there's just no way to guarantee how much Parma will care about this match. Next, go to Pisa, hosting Napoli. It's the last of our 5 a.m. windows. Then we have a bunch at 1:45 Central Time, 2:45 Eastern Time, and a noon Eastern Time start as well. We'll go to Pisa and Napoli. Currently, Pisa, they are relegated, and they are nowhere near last place. 2 wins all season. So you're going to really back them at home to really put their last stand up before they go back to Serie B. Been bad all year. I don't know. 1 1/4 underdogs at home with all the juice on Napoli, likely climbing to 1.5. Total in this one is 2 3/4. She's very heavily under. And really, if you're playing this matchup, you're just backing a Pisa's team's pride. Napoli have put on better offensive players on the pitch second half of the season. Really struggled with staying healthy. And honestly, I don't really understand other than they just didn't play 2 matches a week last year. But the fall off was grave this year. Probably not enough for me to play there unless we get a 3 on as an under, but it's juiced very heavily right now to going towards 2.5. I don't see that happening. We'll now go to Inter Milan hosting Verona. Currently, Inter 1 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Total in this one is 3, and it's juiced very heavily to over. So might see a 3 1/4 coming. I don't know whether I want much to do with Verona. They're already relegated. Inter have already won the Scudetto. They played the Coppa Italia midweek. You'd argue that's a benefit to Verona. but I don't know how much that is. So probably one that will not come anywhere near that card. We'll move now to 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern. Atalanta, a 3/4 goal favorite to Bologna. Total in this one is 3, just very heavily to under. Now, Bologna have been a great team to back all season. They're currently 6 points back behind Atalanta. Literally have to beat them, win out, all those sort of things. That's going to be hard to do. Atalanta, they look pretty safe in a Conference League position. Can't catch Como actually either. So really all I need is a point, and Bologna won't be able to catch them. And that's all. But they're a pretty big favorite considering. Bologna likely going for it. I'm interested if this one climbs to a 1-goal underdog. I think that makes it a lot more interesting for me. So I'll lean to 3/4 of a goal right now on Bologna. +1 though, if you got it, might be worth a stab. I could see under 3. It's very juice. Love that push on 3, but I don't know that I trust so much there either. Now it's a late window. We got 3 matches all at 13:45 in military time, Central Time. So that's 2:45 Eastern Time, 1:45 Central. We'll start with Udinese hosting Cremonese. Udinese, a 1/4 goal favorite right now. All the juice in Cremonese. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's juiced very heavily to over. Likely seeing a climb to 2.5, maybe. Udinese, they are currently on 50 points in 10th position. They can't catch anybody for Europe. So, but good season for them, staying up. That's all they want. Cremonese on 31 points, 1 point behind Lecce, 6 points behind Cagliari. Probably can't catch them, but I guess it's mathematically possible. So Cremonese with nothing to play for on the road, Cremonese with everything to play for to keep their team in the division, going on the road to Udinese, who have nothing to play for. That is a great recipe for the 1/4 goal underdog, even though they're away from home and it's very juiced at the moment. At Pick'em, I'm probably skipping, but I do like that road underdog side. Total is 2.25, and I think that negatively is impacted by Udinese's lack of interest in this matchup, so that concerns me. But lead to Cremonese as the dog on the road. Sassuolo then hosts Lecce. Sassuolo have had a great season on 49 points in 11th. Can't go anywhere. Lecce, as I just mentioned, 1 point ahead of Cremonese on 32 points in 17th position. So this matchup means a lot to them, to say the least. Currently -110 both ways on Pick'em. Total in this one is 2.5, just very heavily to under. So I lean to under, as I do in every Lecce match. And I lean to the road team, but I need to see a 1/4 goal underdog. So we'll see if that ends up happening. I don't necessarily think we will, based on where the juice is now, and Sassuolo's no interest game here coming. Last but not least, Cagliari hosting Torino. I guess they're starting at this time because it could potentially fall in the relegation spat. Lecce can pass them for 16th. Cremonese could tie them for 16th. I don't know. It seems really unlikely, but they're playing Torino. Torino are in 12th on 44 points. They can't do anything, so it doesn't really matter. But matters for one team, and that makes Cagliari a 1/4 goal favorite. Sensible. Probably not much for me to do there with Torino. I don't trust them to score goals, though. Cagliari's defense is usually best at home, but when the game they need to win, or I guess a point is enough for them to avoid relegation. So, so maybe that means they conservative play for 0-0, and that makes 2.25 look a little bit more interesting. I'd love to get 2.5. Don't think we will based on the juice, though. So put that on my list as a possibility. I'm not really sure that I want it just yet. So that is probably the best way to look for is who's got more motivation here than others, especially going to Udinese, which is not always the most difficult place to play. I'll go with Cremonese, a 1/4 goal underdog on the road at Udinese in a battle at the bottom of the Italian Serie A. Last but not least, we'll get to the Ligue 1 in France, and then we'll get ultimate best bet. Let's pick my favorite one from each of the leagues, and we'll get into that. We'll start. All these matches start at 2 p.m. Central Time. Great. 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, European soccer, for spacing these out. I guess we start really early with Serie A. We have some Premier League, or just a single match, then more Premier League, then more Serie A that doesn't matter, and then the afternoon Serie A does matter, and all of Spain does, literally all of it. That I guess comes right before so no one cares, but Italy, big slate, small Premier League, nothing else really matters. Premier League, unfortunately. Anyway, this is pointless. Let's just go to France. Nice start as a home favorite to Metz. It's 1.5 goal underdogs. Metz go in there. They are already relegated on 16 points. Nantes are automatically relegated on 23 points. So we got Angers, Nice, Le Havre, all close to one match day left to go. Angers are safe, but Le Havre, Angers, and Nice, they are all trying to stay out of that relegation playoff position, which is 16th. Nice as 1.5 goal favorites to Metz show that Metz aren't trying to take them down with them. I don't believe that. So I'm very interested in Metz as a 1.5 goal underdog. They've looked bad all season, though. So that's a big question, especially away from home. Total is 3 in this matchup. Bigger than I made it. But I think we could see some Metz goal scoring attempts here, or just in general, because they've not shown any offense all season. We'll next go to Lorient hosting Le Havre. Currently, Lorient a pick'em right now. The juice is minus 110 both ways. Le Havre likely, well, no, they get a point and both teams behind them win. That doesn't guarantee them anything. So they're fighting. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's just more to the over. So I'd love to see Lorient move to a favorite because they don't have anything to play for. They're in 9th position, 45 points, can't catch the European places, cannot be caught by relegation. That's a great spot for Lorient, or excuse me, for Le Havre. Thought they might even be favored in this matchup. They aren't. But we'll see where that one goes. Next, go to Nantes hosting Toulouse. Currently, Nantes a slight favorite, minus 111 to minus 109 on Toulouse. Total in this one is 2.75. She's very heavily to under, and Nantes finally the clock has stopped, and they are going down to Ligue 2. Toulouse sitting in 10th on 44 points. Market has been all over the place on them lately. I don't know. They got nothing to play for. Maybe Nantes last stand, but Nantes crowd will probably be whistling and angry the whole time. I don't know if I want anything to do with this matchup on either side, really. Maybe Nantes as a pick'em, I guess. I don't know. Not a lot there. Total, not really sure I want that either. Next, go to Lille hosting Angers. So Lille, they're currently in 3rd position on 61 points. 1 point ahead of Lyon. And that's a big deal. 2 points ahead of Rennes. The only teams that can catch them. They cannot catch Lens for 2nd place, but so be it. Whereas Angers, they need, well, anything can happen with Le Havre, Angers, and Nice in that last position, relegation playoff position. They will stay up potentially, but they have to get through a playoff, and that's a big deal. Angers, 1.25 goal underdogs. All the juice is on the home team, Lille, who have a lot to play for, but Angers do too. And I really like the fight in Angers. I'm concerned that on the road that Lille score goals. At home, especially, I have bad reminders of the sparklers that they shoot off every time they score in the red painted nets or red dyed nets. I'll lean to Angers, 1.25 goal underdogs. I guess I have some interest in under because that kind of correlates with them, but I think I want a full 3, and we don't have that yet. Strasbourg then hosts Monaco. Currently, Strasbourg a 1/4 goal underdog at home with more juice on Monaco. Total in this one is 3.25, and it's juiced more to the under by 4 cents. Monaco on 54 points can catch Marseille for a Europa Conference League position on 56, but they need to win, and Marseille not to win. So that guarantees at least some interest. Strasbourg on 50 points can't catch anybody, so they are not in Europe next season based on current setup, or at least on the league table finish. So you could argue they don't have much to play for. I'll lean to Strasbourg. Just not really a believer in Monaco, though I'm wearing something that says Monaco on it, but here we are. Let's go to FC Paris hosting PSG. Paris and PSG, I guess, was designed to be a big rivalry, but one team that wins the league every year and one team that just came up probably wasn't going to be a big thought. Anyway, +1 on Paris at home, minus 110, with Champions League coming up, certainly on the minds of PSG, final at least. Total is 3.25, and we've seen some under money coming in. It was +102, now up to minus 106, but still a lot of juice on the over, and that certainly reflects every PSG game. You could argue that Paris might be worth a look, the FC Paris side instead of PSG. I've heard of them that way. PSG won the league in a close battle. But FC Paris, I mean, great for them to finish on 41 points. They're coming back in the league for another season. I don't think they've been as good as market has, but c'est la vie. Lean to the home underdog, +1. Love that push, especially if PSG aren't using their best, or potentially we see a lot of substitutes, would be my guess. Definitely all 5 substitutes getting used. Next, go to Lyon hosting Lens. Currently, Lyon a 3/4 goal favorite with more juice. Total in this one is 3, juiced 4 cents more to the over. So Lyon are trying to fight to get into Champions League. Lens are already there. I think that's why we see the number where it is. It's a giant number, though. Lens have been great, but you also got to say that Lens with the Coupe de France final coming up. That's probably not the side you want to be on, I got to say. Next, go to Angers, visiting Brest, Stade Brestois. Currently, Brest minus 1/2 of a goal with almost all the juice. Total this one's 2.5, juice almost all the way to over. Angers can't be caught. They're safe. Brest 3 points ahead of them, also safe. Neither of them have any sort of insight or direction to get to Europe. So you can argue there's not anything to play for here. I'll lean to Angers as I do every time they play. Lean to under every time Angers plays. But I don't know if there's enough for me in that matchup with two teams that are probably just going to try to score goals. And could see a 6-5. Unlikely, but 4-3 maybe. Last but not least, Marseille hosting Rennes. Currently, Marseille, a 1/2 a goal favorite. All the juice on Rennes. Total in this one is 3, just a little bit more to under. And Rennes are fighting to jump over Lyon for Europa League. Potentially even get a Champions League, which is crazy because they switch managers mid-season. But Rennes are talented. Marseille are 3 points behind them. Could catch Rennes. So this matchup is going to be huge. 1 point good enough for Rennes to stay in Europa League. Not good enough for Champions League, but they want that as opposed to the Conference League. And Marseille, they're going to be mad that they're not winning the league and they're not in Champions League and that they're not in Europa League. I mean, they're just never happy. So I don't know how much that changes things here. I think Marseille is... I mean, they play really well at home, but they haven't had as good of results there as they do away from home. And Rennes and Fréquès is one of my favorite managers. Rennes has been a great club to me. So I'll lean to the road underdog here. I think we can see some goals. So I don't think Rennes want them. I think they want to stay in Europa League at worst. So I think we see a defensive effort. 1/2 a goal doesn't give you a ton of insurance. If Marseille wins this game, you lose your bet. But I don't know that Marseille, when they got their coach poached for them to try to keep Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League in England, if that is enough here to see what ends up happening. So I'll lean to Rennes, a 1/2 a goal underdog there as my best bet from that last matchup. All matchups are at 2 p.m. Central Time, and I got to say, it's been an exhausting episode going through all the permutations, but I hope everyone liked it. If you did, please leave a 5-star review, Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/@thereal_GWarner. You can also find me on Instagram @thereal_GWarner as well. For a best bet from France, before I plug anything else I can think of, let's go with Angers, a 1.25 goal underdog on the road at Lille. I think we see a tight matchup there, at least tighter than the experts currently believe. So that does it for this episode of the English Premier League, Spanish La Liga, Italian Serie A, and French Ligue 1 best bets. Hopefully you all get to this. Putting out there a fairly decent hour, I think, on Saturday. But we'll see. And certainly have a lot of early matchups. So we'll see how that all comes together. But other things to check out, patreon.com/thereal_GWarner. Best spot to get all my plays, leads, rails across all sports. Download the app, turn on notifications. You get a buzz every time I lock something in, so you make sure you get the best price. Your sports books. If you also want to interact with me, great way to do that too. I'm happy to certainly help if anybody needs referrals to any certain places or locals or things of that nature. That's a little more complicated. So let's go with ultimate best bet on this show. I want to end this the right way. As always, let's go with West Ham United, 1/4 goal underdogs with a lot to play for them. You could argue not so much to play for their opponent, and that's why I'm doing it. West Ham United, it's going to be tough going to Newcastle, but I like that 1/4 goal underdog. We'll play that for the best bet on this episode. We'll see you on the next one, which we wrap everything up coming next week, most likely. We'll add the English Championship final on Saturday, plus whatever's left to go and whatever hasn't been decided yet in these big top 4 soccer leagues in Europe. I guess you argue 3 of the top 4, but France sometimes falls off. Anyway, that does it. I'm going to stop rambling. Talk to you all soon.